Hello, I'm Carolyn Lambert from Niagara Falls, New York, class of 1958,
Which school?
of St. Francis de Sales High School, class of 1958.
And what, if you could tell me, was your first experience in coming here from Niagara Falls day one?
Well, I just remember the long drive, not only from Niagara Falls, but from the city of Richmond to St. Francis. And I remember my parents and my sister and my brother, we were all riding together, and I thought this was truly the longest ride of my life. And I thought we would never get there, but finally, after coming down this winding road, this wonderful building appeared, and here where I was at St. Francis. That's the one thing I remember vividly.
Now, how many years were you in attendance here at St. Francis?
I was here for 4 years. I came here as a freshman and I graduated as a senior in 1958.
Was it love at first sight?
Well, there was mixed emotions. You know, this is the first time I had been away from my parents for an extended period of time. So, but my mother was a person who had the vision for the future, and she always wanted the best for her children. And she saw that I, as a black Catholic, really didn't have the social life in Niagara Falls, you know, as far as the dances and those type of activities. And she wanted me to be able to have some enjoyable high school years. And so therefore she asked me one day if I would like to go away to school. And so after giving it some thought, I said, well, you know, that sounds like an exciting thing to do. And I guess I was just young and naive and not realize, you know, I'm going to be away from my family for periods of time. But I liked the thought of going, you know, going away. And so that summer, she prepared everything, clothing, and I remember going to visit my grandparents, and I came home, and she had everything all ready. You know, whatever the items that were required, she had gotten them ready. And so therefore, I came to St. Francis, and the rest is history.
And how would you describe your experience here those 4 years? How would you best describe them?
I still feel that it was the best years of my life. Even though I was away from my parents and my sister for at least a while, it was a new experience. And after thinking about it, I realized we had students from the major states, you know, of the East Coast, the major cities like New York, Philadelphia, Washington, Atlanta, and I was very impressed. We had students from Costa Rica, Santo Domingo, and the Virgin Islands. And I always thought this is a very eclectic group, and students from all, you know, these areas, and not everybody has an opportunity to go to school with students from on a sort of an international level. Different backgrounds, different family circumstances, but we were all here together going through the same experiences, and I just felt that was a wonderful thing. But also I knew that it was a major sacrifice that my parents had, you know, taken to provide this opportunity. So I was, you know, appreciative. And my whole family, my grandparents and my aunts and uncles and everyone was happy that I was here. And as a result, you know, I had a sister to come 2 years later. And at first she was very reluctant to come. But I think the fact that we were here together helped her to, you know, adjust. And then after that, I had a first cousin who came to St. Francis and graduated. And then we had some friends from Niagara Falls, 2 young men that came to St. Emma. So we were like I guess a pioneer in a sense, because this was a whole new activity for us from a small town in upstate New York.
You mentioned you were a black Catholic, so you were sort of a minority within a minority community.
Exactly. And all my days as far as school, I was the only black student in my elementary school. And when I went back to college, which was at Niagara University, in the School of Nursing, I was the only black student in that particular university. So it didn't bother me in a sense. I think I was comfortable being away from home, but I was with all African American students. And so that was, I mean, to me it was not a problem. But I also feel that it's not easy, being the only person, and sometimes treated, accordingly. So I just feel that St. Francis was a wonderful experience that I'm so thankful that my parents provided for me.
Did it ever occur to you at the time, or even shortly thereafter of your education, that you were in Virginia, you were in this Confederate, stronghold where Jim Crow was alive and well, that other people of color were not able to vote, that they couldn't ride on the bus and things of that nature?
Right.
Was that even consciously in your thought or thinking?
No. And the interesting piece, interesting about that is that we were isolated. I mean, literally isolated. We were here up at St. Francis, and until we went home, we really didn't know about some of these things. I think back now, as we are in Black History Month, that there was so much going on around us that we were not aware of. And I think in a way the nuns probably protected us. I don't know if that's good or bad, but we didn't have TV, for example. And we saw magazines and newspapers, but we really and truly did not know what was going on in the outside world. And I think because we were away from home, and I guess they try to protect us, to keep us from getting too homesick and worried about, situations like that. So no, I knew that we were in the heart of the Confederacy because of some other experiences, but it wasn't a difficult time. I do remember one young lady who came to St. Francis. She was behind me because she was a student in the schools that were being closed because of segregation. So her family sent her here to St. Francis. But no, we weren't privy to that, and I guess in a way that was a blessing.
Okay. My last question is, of all of the experiences in your life that have brought you to this point, this moment, and you are now back on the property, what would you like to have happen or to see happen with St. Francis now, or even St. Emma's, now that we've come to a shell of what it once was?
Right.
What do you see? What would you like to see?
What I'd like to see is that we continue the efforts of informing people about the beauty and the history that's here, and preserved through historical societies and through whatever other grants are available for the preservation of our history. It saddens me that we've come, to this point, but it also is, I feel there's hope. I feel that there's an opportunity here with all the resources here in our United States that we can preserve this and make it a museum or some type of educational facility so we can bring it back to life. I feel that there is so much history here, and it's precious history, and we do need to preserve it. So even though it saddens me to see that there's disrepair, but I do feel that there's a lot that we can do, and together with all the alumni and friends, we can make that happen.
Last question. The year that you graduated St. Francis.
I graduated from St. Francis in 1958.
Any outstanding memory of an incident you may have had with a sister or nun that stands out in your mind, or any boy interaction from St. Emma's?
Well, I remember I have a tendency to be late, but I always, I never got any difficulty, and most of the time I was pretty popular. But I used to work in the library when I was at St. Francis. That was my charge, and I always enjoyed, that experience, because even after I graduated, I was a student at Niagara University, and I still worked at the library mending books. I was taught to do that while I was here at St. Francis. But when the bell rang, I was still trying to work on something, and I would run downstairs, and I was always late getting into the line. And I'm still late even today, but they, would always call out the number of the class and students enrolled, and there was always one person missing, and that was usually me. So that's the one thing I remember. Some things never change, and I'm still running late. But the bottom line is that I had some neat friends, and some of them I'm still in touch with today. But overall, I just feel that it was just a great experience, and I'm just so thankful that I had it.